Jim Harbaugh is going back to Michigan. Let's start with this. So the Rams offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell, Monday after the Super Bowl, is going to get the Vikings job. That's what everybody thinks. So let's start our show with this. Sean McVay, I've never seen anything like this. He's been in the NFL 5 years coaching. He's already got a coaching tree of Matt LaFleur, Packers, Zach Taylor in the Super Bowl, Bengals, Brandon Staley, who people like, with the Chargers, and now Kevin O'Connell, who people call a tall Sean McVay. That's the first thing. Second thing, what do they have in common? It's very important here. What do they have in common? They're very smart, and they're very verbal. They're all good in front of the podium. They're all, I would say, heading in the direction of the NFL. They like their analytics. Here's the other thing they all are. Collaborative. You know, the days of Bobby Knight yelling and screaming, running the show, those days are over in sports, okay? Jim Harbaugh didn't get this job because he's not as collaborative. And I'm a Jim Harbaugh fan. He thought he had this job. But Jim Harbaugh's intense. And there are several teams in this league, and I've been told this by people who like Harbaugh and think he's a great coach. 44-19-1 as a head coach in the NFL, 3 playoff runs, and a Super Bowl. A third of the teams in this league would not interview him. So yesterday, I spent a lot of time defending Brian Flores, and I think he's a great coach, and I would hire him today in New Orleans. But he fired 3 offensive coordinators and was not terribly collaborative with his GM. That is something the NFL is moving away from. If it was just about winning in the National Football League, Jim Harbaugh would have to be the number one candidate for every job. Most of the jobs wouldn't interview him. He's not collaborative. It's kind of Jim's way, and I think he's great. But what you're seeing in the NFL happening right now, you know, Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan getting into a fist fight, like those days are over. You've got to be collaborative. You've got to work well with others. Because if it's just winning, Brian Flores has to be interviewed, and Jim Harbaugh has to be the favorite for every job. He's 44-19-1. He took over a mess in San Francisco. They won immediately. He left. They were a mess again. So there's a real movement here happening, and Sean McVay is leading it. His guys are moving around the league. They're verbal. They're sharp. They're into analytics. They get along with others. They work with a quarterback. They work with a GM. They work with the owner. Players like him. And I absolutely believe the transfer portal is going to drive more of these college guys to the NFL. Because here's another thing that is happening with Harbaugh on signing day in college football, interviewing for an NFL job. All the do-gooders in the media, it's such a cliche now, is, well, the coaches can move. Why can't the players move? Nobody's against, no reasonable person's against movement. But right now, the NFL has more structure than college football. So think about that. So the NFL has always paid more. The NFL's got better pensions. It's easier to keep a staff together because they have pensions. You can keep your star quarterback for 12 to 15 years. And now the NFL allows the coach something that college always had on the NFL. More structure, more control over personnel. In college football today, a player could leave after a bad game, middle of the season. I mean, even the NFL has got a trading deadline, a free agency period. So it's very interesting that Harbaugh on signing day at his alma mater was hoping to get an NFL job. But my 2 takeaways on this hire by the Vikings is collaboration is the new NFL, and college football better put up some guardrails, or you're going to start losing a lot. When the alma mater of a coach who just beat Ohio State, and he's like, on signing day, I'm going to go interview for, I don't even think, a great NFL job. It's not as good as the Packers when Matt LaFleur took it. I mean, Chargers job, you get Justin Herbert. In 1 year in Minnesota, that's not a great job. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers stays, you're playing for second place. So that's my takeaway on that story. So let me talk about another story. So I came in this morning and, apparently I don't even follow this stuff anymore. Everybody's outraged by everything on the internet. It's just snowflakes everywhere. Some of you guys out there, you tough guys, You know, in your avatar in your bathroom with your shirt off, you're outraged by everything. You're not nearly as tough emotionally as you think. But apparently, Brady on, was it Tuesday morning, Tom Brady officially retired. And I guess little fanboys in Boston were upset that Belichick, he didn't mention Patriots, you know, when we retired. Oh, get over it. And Kraft on Tuesday night said, congrats, Tommy, I love you. And people were upset that Belichick waited till Wednesday to say something really nice about Tom. Oh, good hell. I mean, people, good God, get over yourselves. First of all, I'm not going to try to validate Belichick or Brady or Kraft. They're all A+++. And can we just come to terms with this? That Belichick and Brady really mattered to each other. And they, in the end, they liked working together. You don't go with anybody for 20 years. I mean, Shaq and Kobe at some point didn't like each other, so much so they broke up a dynasty. The Lakers were the best franchise. They had the best team. They had the best coach. And they drove each other so nuts they broke up. Like, that's not getting along. If you can go 20 years with somebody, I don't care if it's a marriage or a football coach, you get along fine. And let's be honest about Brady and Belichick here. Tom, early in his career, would not have been as successful as he was without Belichick. And then later in Tom's career, Belichick would not have been as successful as he was without Brady. Belichick was more important early. Why? It was a much more defensive run league. It was more defensive leaning. Brady threw for 145 yards in his first Super Bowl win. He was managing the game, not making big mistakes. Brady's early success is 70-30 Belichick. But 7 or 8 years later, the league was changing, and the Patriots were becoming a more profound offensive team. Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Gronk, Aaron Hernandez. And in the last 7 to 8 years, Belichick, and we've seen it since Tom left, would not have been nearly as successful without Tommy. So let's be honest about this. Your first 7, 8 years, it's probably the Super Bowls, they go to Bill. The last 7, 8, they go to Tommy. And in the middle 6, neither one of them won Super Bowls. So we don't need to fight about that. But too often in this relationship, we're trying to pick it apart. What's great about it is how it ended near the 2018 season was a perfect balance. And it really shows and illustrates what the relationship was. So early it's Belichick. It's all defense. Tom's managing. Later it's Brady coming back, against Seattle. It's coming back against Atlanta. It's getting to shootouts. In fact, Belichick's defense let him down against Philadelphia. But the greatest example of a season that proved how valuable each was is 2018 playoffs. Go back to the 2018 playoffs. What happened in the AFC Championship? It was a shootout in overtime, and Brady outdueled Mahomes 37-31. Tom threw it 46 times. They didn't have much of a running game. He threw for 350 yards, and the offense prevailed. They couldn't stop Mahomes. Bill Belichick couldn't stop him in the second half. 2 weeks later, they go to the Super Bowl. Brady plays like poop, and the Rams offense and kid genius McVay are held to a field goal and totally shut down. In a 2-game stretch, you saw the greatness of Brady when Belichick couldn't stop Mahomes, and 2 weeks later, you saw the brilliance of Belichick when Tom couldn't get anything going. That sums it up. Early, Bill gets credit. Late, Brady gets credit. And 2018, the big Super Bowl, the Chiefs, the Rams, they split it up. Can we just stop worrying about who thanks who and who goes to Instagram? Boston fans, get over it. He thanked you already. And Belichick haters, he's the best coach in league history. We all good with that now? Can the snowflake stop? Can the outrage stop? We all good with it now? All right, there you go. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.